It'll be one to go this time by. Coming to the green, buddy, coming to the green. Let's go get him. Go, 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 Dick, 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 go, 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 go.
Get your motor running. Head out on the highway.
Ravello with NASCAR.com.
Jeff, having been both in and out of this championship chase, what's it like this time of year when you're not racing for the championship? Do you feel forgotten? Do you really just focus on the next year like everybody says they do? What's it like when you're not in the chase right now?
Well, you feel left out. Honestly, I told this story a few weeks ago. I can remember going to Richmond. We were not going to be in the chase. We knew we weren't going to be in the chase. And I think we qualified outside pole or third or something like that. And, I parked my car after my qualifying lap, and not one person from the media was standing there. You know what I mean? And it was like, hey, we just did pretty good. But nobody seemed to care. That's just how it is. If you're not in the chase, people just don't pay you a whole lot of attention. You have to do something dramatic to bring that attention in. We are always working on next year. We're always working on the next week. When people say that, well, now we're just working on next year, who isn't? You're always building on what you're doing. What you do next week has a great deal to do with what you did this week. That's the nature of our business. You can gamble a little bit more, maybe. You can do things a little bit more unorthodox, maybe. But our sport is such that it's just building blocks. You're always trying to put, one block on top of the other to get better. So we're always looking to be better in the future. But, it is tough when you're not in the chase. And then, when you start racing. You're racing people that are racing for a championship. And that's a tough spot to be in. I think some guys in the chase expect, special consideration. I don't think that's right. I think just because you're in the chase doesn't change the fact that, if a guy's not in the chase, he has as much right to the racetrack as you do. But I do think that people start looking for a little bit of special consideration, a little bit of extra help. And I think that, we heard it from Tony last year. They didn't make the chase. Last year or the year before, I can't remember which one. We heard it, I believe it was last year because he won all his races. He felt like at times he was in the way. He felt like he was interrupting the flow of the chase. And, that's a difficult position for those guys to be in, too.
Jeff, thanks very much.
We'll now hear from David Newton with ESPN.com.
Hey, Jeff. A lot of drivers nowadays are using sports psychologists. Have you ever used one, and what would you think the benefits would be?
Well, I've been a big proponent of sports psychology for a long time, actually. I don't always talk about the things that I do and to prepare myself, but I'm by no means a newcomer in that business. I believe that everybody's different. I don't think that there's I don't believe you can lay a curriculum out for someone that says this will make you the best race car driver any more than you can lay a curriculum out and say this one will make you the best farmer or pilot or whatever it is you want to be. You have to determine personally, individually, what works best for you. Some people, may not get much advantage in a sports psychologist. Some people may not get much advantage in a nutritionist or in a trainer. It just depends on who you are. And I think it's important for whoever you're working with to understand that too. That you have to custom, this is a specialty sport, and there's things that I'm really good at that I really don't need any help with. And there's things that I'm not good at all that I could definitely use some help on. So understanding what they are, I think, is really important. And again, a psychologist or any type of profession that can help you do a better job, I think it's very useful. And I think if you're not willing to look at every kind of option, I think you're leaving yourself short. But the amount of gain is different depending on who you are.
What made you turn to one?
I'm sorry?
What made you turn to one? Any specific incident or anything that made you feel like it would be a benefit?
No, not really. I just, at the end of the day, I believe that there's I don't want to get too philosophical here, but, I believe that if you look at psychology in a negative way, in that, if you think about people that have physical problems caused because of psychological problems, that means the brain is extremely strong. So if you can harness that power and use it to your advantage, then that's a good thing. So what opened my eyes to it was being in a situation where I knew some people and that psychologically were letting that have an impact on their everyday life. And I looked at that and I thought, wow, you know, what if you turn that around and use it as an advantage rather than a disadvantage? And that's kind of what opened my eyes to being willing to sit down and talk.
And one more thing, Tony Stewart's got a full-time job Monday through Thursday preparing for a race team next season. Could that be a benefit, taking your mind off the chase this time of year?
Again, everybody's different, and I'm certainly not going to sit here and say that Tony Stewart would be benefited by going to a psychologist. I mean, I'm not going to do that. I think that everybody is different, and you know, Tony is embarking on a very difficult. I mean, what he's getting ready to do is very, very difficult. The end of story. How they structure that team and the way they go about building that business around Tony will have a great deal to do with how successful Tony can be. Tony can't be everything. Nobody can. Nobody can pay attention to driving these race cars, put everything else behind you, and when everything else behind you is huge. I mean, when you start, I look at Richard Childress, and I think, good God, look at all the stuff he has on his shoulders. You know, I don't think that Richard Childress could do all the things that he does today and drive a race car. I think it would be impossible. It would be for me anyway. So they're going to have to structure that thing so Tony can focus on driving the race car and help in areas that don't distract from Tony. They have to be things that can help, not hurt. And, you know, I don't know how they're structuring it. I mean, there's all types of different ways to have ownership in a team. I mean, he may have very little to do with day-to-day decisions, or he may have a lot to do with it. I don't know which it's going to be, but it has to be done so that it's productive and not counterproductive.